Welcome to Heartbreak Chronicles. I've known Emma for a long time. We started out as kids growing up in the same town, and our families were closely connected through the local farming industry. Her father owned the grain silo, and my father ran the largest farm in the area. It seemed that Emma and I were destined to be together, and over time we developed a relationship that eventually led to marriage. Despite the occasional ups and downs, I have always felt that we have a strong foundation for our relationship. At first, our married life was like any other couple's, full of happy moments and the usual challenges. But as time went on, I began to notice changes. But as time went on, I began to notice a change. Emma became distant, and I felt that the closeness we once shared was fading. Little did I know that this detachment was just a symptom of a bigger problem, and that I was about to discover something that would change my life forever. I don't usually browse adult sites, but a few nights ago, curiosity got the better of me. Not only did I browse the content, but I ended up paying $100 for a premium membership. What I saw that night was a hot scene of a beautiful woman and a muscular, handsome man in live action. I've seen better before, but there was something special about this video. Why? Because the woman who goes by the name of Jenna is actually my wife, Emma. The site, called Nature's Paradise Spa, really does live up to its name, because she's clearly enjoying every moment of it. As Emma rolled over on the bed, looking completely satisfied, the man grinned and said, "That was great, honey. Bet your husband never made you feel this good, huh?" Hot mom Jenna, my Emma, smiles without hesitation and replies, "Well, Mario, that's great, no doubt about it. But to be honest, no one can ignite my passion like my husband. I've been with a few men, but no one has ever made me as happy as he does. You're good, but he's the best. So don't stop, keep trying." She smiled again. Mario, looking confused, asked, "So, if he's so good, why did you come here to betray him and be with me?" Still with a smile on her face, she replied, "I didn't plan for this to happen, but I love sex and I appreciate you taking care of me. I also do it because I can get away with it, and he will never know. I love my husband with all my heart and soul. After spending these 3 nights here, I realize he's much better than what I got here. That makes me love him even more and appreciate him even more." She added with a smile, "In fact, I'm probably doing him a favor by coming here and doing this. So, come on, one more time." Obviously, the $100 was well spent because it allowed me to see what my dear wife was doing, and it was much cheaper than hiring a private investigator or buying surveillance equipment. You may be wondering how I got to this point and what led me to visit that site. It's a fair question, and the most honest answer I can give is that it was pure coincidence. A lucky break. Not that my wife was sleeping with Mario, but that I found out she was cheating on me. Emma and I have been married for over 8 years. We first met in grade school and grew up in a small town in central Illinois. She lived in town and I lived in the country. Her father owned the largest grain silo, and my father owned the largest farm. Since our parents had business dealings, we naturally met and became friends. I won't waste time talking about childhood crushes, high school romances, or even college. We've both dated other people and, yes, had sex with other people. We weren't exclusive from the start, but I think deep down we always knew we belonged with each other. Oh, yeah, I was the first one to have sex with her, even though we both had other people in the process. During my junior year at the University of Illinois, we decided to begin a dedicated relationship. Shortly thereafter, I proposed, and about a year and a half after graduation, we were married. Life seemed good, or at least I thought it was, until that night. But let me continue with the story of how I found out online that my wife was cheating on me and what happened afterward. 3 years ago, Emma's parents retired and moved to Phoenix, Arizona, where Emma and her sister Olivia, along with brothers Nathan and Lucas, bought a 48% stake in the family grain business from their father. Tom wanted to retain a controlling interest for a few years to financially support their growth. Over time, he planned to reduce his share until they owned the business completely. Olivia is married to my friend Henry Wilson, who is also a grain farmer. His farm is a little smaller than mine, and we spend a lot of time together as we live close to each other. His farm is a little smaller than mine, and as we live so close together, we spend a lot of time together. Nathan manages the grain business with Lucas, and Emma looks after the finances. Olivia also works there managing customer relations and grain sales. It's a real family business with a few extra staff, mainly truck drivers and grain handlers. During the busy harvest season, they also employ a few temporary workers. That's the background. Now let me get back to the story of how I found out my wife was cheating on me online and what happened afterward. All four Gentry siblings worked very hard to close the deal to buy the grain business from their father. I wasn't much involved, but I know they worked hard on it. They had meetings with the bank, the Illinois Department of Agriculture, and the insurance company. By the time everything was organized, they were exhausted. Fortunately, it all happens in the winter, when they have the least time of the year. For me, the harvest is over, so I don't need Emma's help on the farm as much as I do during the busy season. Although she doesn't work directly on the farm, there are 2,200 acres of corn and soybeans to tend to during the busy planting and harvesting season, and I help out wherever I'm needed. You know what I mean. Now that things are quiet, Emma and Olivia decide to treat themselves to a few days of relaxation at a spa. They booked a 3-night stay at a place called the Princess Spa. I know I've mentioned the Natural Paradise Spa before, but that's the name of the website. The Princess Spa is the actual spa. The ladies came back looking so relaxed and refreshed that they made it an annual tradition, booking another one the following July after the planting season was over. It was during a spa trip that weekend that I stumbled upon that video. But how did I find it? Isaac Parker, the Illinois Department of Agriculture field agent for our area, stopped by on a routine tour. And Emma and I have known Isaac since college, and when he asked about her, I mentioned that she was on vacation at the Princess Spa. He gave me a strange look and mentioned that there seemed to be something unusual going on there that I might want to check out. He said that his cousin worked there as a masseuse and shared some crazy stories. He also said they had a website with a different name, something like Paradise or something. He didn't give me many details, just suggested I check it out. Well, I'm the kind of person who likes to explore around on the internet. I browse different websites and sometimes I even stumble upon some spicy content, but usually just for fun. That night, curiosity got the better of me and I started searching. It didn't take me long to find Nature's Paradise Spa and its live stream, and then it all came crashing down. But you already know what happened next. I was depressed. I cried, yelled, got angry, and fell into a deep depression. These are the expected reactions you have when you find out your spouse is cheating on you. And it wasn't just this one time. I soon realized that this wasn't the first time Emma had cheated on me. The Natureland Spa had an archive section where I found videos of Emma's previous visits, as well as this trip. With a premium membership, I could download each video for an additional $20. I downloaded 2 videos from her first visit, 3 from her second visit, and 3 from this trip, for a total of 8 videos. So, for $260, I had all the evidence I needed to get a divorce. I didn't have a definite plan, but I knew I had to act quickly. As far as I was concerned, the sooner we broke up, the better, and Emma had had sex with at least 2 men, Mario and Steve, a total of 8 times, and I had video evidence. I don't care if there's more, this has gone too far. I made several DVD copies of the video and stored them in a very safe place. When my father built our house, he installed a safe on the wall behind the bookcase in his office. Once the copies were safely stored, I deleted everything related to the Natural Paradise Spa from my computer, including the original files. Except for the DVDs, there was no longer any digital trace. After that, I picked up my cell phone and sent Emma a message. I know exactly what you're doing at the Princess Spa, and I have proof. Don't come back to this house. It's not your house anymore, and soon I won't be your husband either. We're done. My attorney will be contacting you in the next few days to make arrangements for you to come pick up your things. Apparently, Emma turned off her cell phone and didn't get my message until the next morning, because I didn't hear back from her that night. But early the next morning, my cell phone started ringing off the hook. I saw that it was Emma, so I let it go to voicemail. Soon, I heard her message. Oliver, what are you talking about, honey? I have absolutely no idea what's going on. Why would you send me such a horrible message? Olivia and I are packing, and I'm going home in a couple hours. Whatever you're thinking, you're wrong. We'll talk when I get home, okay? I love you, Oliver. After a while, she called again, and I still didn't answer. The voicemail was almost word-for-word repetitive. I began to wonder if she had written it down and knew I wouldn't answer the phone. Shortly afterward, a text message came. Again, almost exactly the same as before. Since I wasn't going to talk to her, I responded with a short text message in response to her message while keeping my distance. Maybe Mario knows what I'm talking about, honey. Should I ask him to give me a call? And like I said, don't come home. You're not welcome anymore. We're finished, Emma. I didn't get any more texts after that, but later that afternoon, she called again and left another voice message. Oliver, we need to talk. I'm staying at Olivia's until we clear up this terrible misunderstanding. Please call me back, okay? We need to talk. It was Sunday afternoon, and I didn't return her call. The next morning, I went to the bank and arranged for a second safe deposit box in my name. I put a copy of the DVD in the box, along with the original prenuptial agreement. I had an 11 o'clock appointment with my attorney, so I made another copy of the prenup, just in case. When I arrived at the lawyer's office, I saw Emma sitting there. She looked up at me and I could tell she was in a bad way. Her hair was disheveled and she had dark circles under her eyes, as if she hadn't slept for nights. Emma said, Oliver, we need to talk about this. I asked, how did you know I'd be here? She replied, William called me during your appointment. Just then, my attorney, William Warner, came out and invited us both into his office. My anger exploded. No, William, we're not going in together. You've lost my trust. Call Emma. I need to know now if you're only representing me, or what. Lawyers are supposed to be smart, but William didn't seem to get the point because he said, No, Oliver. If this case goes forward, I'll represent Emma. Turns out he thought the grain business was a better client than my father. Well, that may be true, since he also has the Gentry family as clients. I have my own opinion about that, and I think he'll eventually realize his mistake. All right, William. I'm going to ask you to have copies of all my original documents and contracts ready by 4 p.m. today. I'll either pick them up in person or I'll send someone else to do so. I appreciate the work you've done in the past, but you're making a big mistake now. My new attorney will be contacting you shortly. Emma remained silent, but then pleaded, Oliver, why don't you want to talk to me and straighten this out? Because, Emma, it's clear that William values you more as a client, and I'm not having this conversation without legal representation. William interjected, Oliver, you know I've always been fair to you. You have nothing to worry about. Oh, William, I have much to worry about. You can't serve two masters at once, and it's obvious where your loyalties lie. Your behavior in calling Emma has shown that I can't trust you. With that, I said goodbye and left. I could hear Emma start to cry as I walked out the door. Now I need to find a new lawyer. I know that William Warner's brother, David, is a very capable attorney and is in competition with William. He seems like a good choice, but I want to do some research first. Lawyers, accountants, bankers, and insurance agents are all people you need to trust completely, and I wanted to be sure. I knew a few people who had worked with David, so I called his office for a list of references. The secretary sent me a list of 4 of my friends. I visited 3 of them, and they all spoke highly of David's work, so it didn't take me long to make up my mind. I had no doubt that David would do a good job for me. I didn't visit the 4th friend on the list because it was Henry and I didn't want to involve him. After all, he was married to Emma's sister Olivia. I called David's office again, gave my name, and asked if I could schedule an appointment after 4 p.m. The receptionist said he was busy until 4:30, but would ask if he could meet afterward. I knew he might not be available, but I had to try. When she got back on the phone, she said, Mr. Warner can meet you at 4:30, but it has to be brief because he has other evening plans. I agreed and confirmed that I would be on time. I look forward to meeting you, Mr. Hagen. I'm Sophia, by the way, David's wife. At 4 o'clock, I went to William's office to pick up my documents. They had not finished making copies and were obviously stalling, hoping I would change my mind. I got angry and told them that if they didn't have all the legal documents in 15 minutes, my new attorney would follow up. They asked me who my new lawyer was, and I told them they would find out soon. After that, the office started running at full speed, with 3 people making copies at the same time, and 20 minutes later, I had everything. I still had time to get to David's office in time for my appointment, so I didn't let this little delay get me down. I met with David, who agreed to be my personal and business attorney. I asked if I could leave all of the documents I had retrieved from William with him for the time being, and he agreed to store them in his safe deposit box until we could review them together. We agreed to review everything together the next day, Tuesday morning at 9 a.m., and begin planning for the divorce. When I left his office around 5:30, I smiled at Sophia and said, "So, Sophia, am I in trouble? Or is your evening program still in effect?" She smiled and said, "You're doing fine, Mr. Hagen. Our evening plans remain the same. I wish all my clients were as punctual as you are. But from now on, please call me Sophie." "Thanks, Sophie. You can call me Oliver." The next morning, we reviewed all the business documents and contracts. I can't give out details, attorney-client privilege, but I can say that David found everything to be in order from a business standpoint. When we broke for lunch, David and Sophie invited me to join them at a local restaurant. I agreed as I needed to go to the bank first. They were a delightful couple, and we had a nice lunch together. I learned that they had been married for about 10 years and had 2 daughters, ages 6 and 3. They showed me pictures and the girls were so cute and looked just like their mom. They have the same beautiful smile as Sophie. That lunch made me happy and made it easier for me to adjust to working with David. But it also made me sad because I realized that my life partner was no longer with me. Seeing how happy David and Sophie were reminded me of the good times we had before we found out Emma was cheating on us. It brought me close to tears a few times. David didn't notice, but Sophie did, and I could see the concern in her eyes. After lunch, I went to the bank and took some steps to protect my assets. I also wrote a check for $5,000 payable to the law offices of David Warner as an advance, and David hasn't asked for any fees yet, but I know he'll appreciate the gesture. I got back to the office at 1:30 to continue our meeting and was greeted by Sophie, who mentioned that David was on the phone and showed me to the small conference room where we had met earlier. She asked me if I wanted some coffee or something, but I said no. She sat down next to me and held out her hand. She sat down next to me, held out her hand and said, "David didn't tell me what was going on, Oliver, but judging by your reaction at lunch, I can guess what this afternoon's meeting was about. I saw you wearing a wedding ring, so I'm guessing it's about your wife. If you'd like, I'd be happy to attend the afternoon session and be by your side as we discuss anything you need to share." I was about to collapse, so I just nodded. My anger subsided temporarily, and the pain became overwhelming. It seemed right to have a woman present to provide sensitivity and comfort. I realized that I might need Sophie's support during this difficult time. In the afternoon session, I told the whole story of how I found out about Emma's infidelity. I had several emotional breakdowns, and Sophie was there to comfort me. After regaining my composure, I explained my intentions. Unless something changes my mind, I intend to file for divorce and enforce the prenuptial agreement. David and I went over the prenuptial agreement in detail. The terms were clear. I would retain 100% of the farm assets, real estate, and personal property, and Emma would retain her grain business assets. If there was no cheating, she would be entitled to 50% of our financial assets, but if there was cheating, she would only be entitled to $25,000 per year of married life. In any event, the family's personal property will be divided equally. David then said, "Oliver, I need you to show evidence of cheating." "No, David, I have evidence, but I won't show it to anyone unless we are forced to go to court. If it comes to that, I'll present it to the judge." David insisted, "Oliver, I really need to see this to make sure we have a good case for cheating." "David, you have to believe me. I have proof, but I loved Emma, and I don't want anyone to see what I saw unless it's absolutely necessary." Sophie touched David's arm gently and nodded to him, signaling him not to insist, and David reluctantly agreed. Over the next few days, Emma called me several times and left messages, but I didn't answer them once. I deleted her voice message without even listening to it. Then David called to let me know that we had an appointment with Emma and her attorney, William, for Thursday at 10:30 a.m. Thursday came and David and I drove to William's office. When we arrived, I noticed that Emma's car was parked in the parking lot. So we walked right in. William's receptionist took us to a small conference room, and a few minutes later, William and Emma walked in. Emma looks much better than the last time I saw her. It was obvious that she had dressed up for this meeting. She was undoubtedly beautiful, and I tried to keep my emotions in check, not wanting her to see how much pain I was feeling inside. She smiled and said, "Oliver, I was hoping we could finally talk and work out this misunderstanding. I miss you and I want to go home." I stayed silent because I knew that if I opened my mouth, my voice would reveal my emotions. I needed to keep my emotions in check, and it wasn't easy. David began, "We are here today to discuss the divorce proceedings between Oliver and Emma. I think it's important to give both parties the opportunity to express their ideas about how they want to move forward." William nodded in agreement, adding, "My client believes this is a misunderstanding, and she would like the opportunity to clear the air with her husband." It was this statement that my anger flared up again. I looked at Emma and said, "Emma, here's the truth. When we got married, we signed a prenuptial agreement, and we updated it 2 years ago when you joined your father's business. I brought copies of the updated agreement, and everyone has a copy." Emma looked surprised and whispered, "But Oliver, I don't want a divorce. I want to remain your wife. Can't we just get over this hurdle and be happy again?" I almost ignored her words and continued. "The purpose of a prenuptial agreement is to protect our respective interests while still allowing us to benefit from the marriage. Initially, it was designed to protect my family's assets for generations. When you joined your father's business, we updated the agreement to protect your family's assets even in the event of a divorce. The agreement specifies that I keep 100% of the family assets and you keep 100% of your assets. Debts associated with those assets stay in their respective businesses, and neither party is responsible for the other's debts. Our joint marital assets are kept separate, and the agreement outlines exactly how those assets will be distributed based on the specifics of the divorce." I continued, "According to this document, you have the right to keep your personal belongings, clothes, jewelry, car, and anything I'm not interested in. The same goes for me. All non-farm personal property, furniture, electronic equipment, and artwork will be divided equally. Farm-related property, such as the barn, machinery, and equipment, are 100% mine, as they are part of the farm operation. In terms of finances, absent cheating behavior, you are entitled to 50% of our financial assets. Here are two exceptions. If you get divorced because of my cheating, I only get $225,000 per year or $200,000 total instead of 50%. If I get divorced because you cheated, you only get $25,000 per year or $200,000 total, not 50%. I paused and then said, "Emma, I'm going to ask you some questions now. How you answer will determine whether I move forward with the divorce and on what grounds. It will also determine any financial distribution. If there is any chance for our marriage, you need to be completely honest. If you refuse to answer or lie, it's over. Do you understand? Are you willing to do this to try to save our marriage?" Shocked by the details of the prenuptial agreement, Emma came back to her senses and said, "Yes, Oliver, I'll answer your questions honestly. I love you, and I want our marriage to continue. I will do anything to make you let me come home." "Emma, I'd like to record these questions. Do you agree?" She hesitated and looked to William, who had remained silent. William said, like a typical lawyer, "Emma, I'd advise against it, but it's up to you." David added, "Emma, I agree with William. I would also suggest that you don't. But it's Oliver you need to convince, not William or me. So do what you think is right." Emma replied, "I will do anything to clear up this misunderstanding." "Yes, you can record. I have no problem with that." David and I brought a tape recorder, so we put it on the table to make sure everyone's voice was clearly recorded. Emma then asks, "Oliver, what's your problem?" I began, "Emma, I want to ask you if you're faithful to me, but I'm going to break it down into 3 time periods. The first time period is from the time we agreed to be exclusive to the day I asked you to marry me. During that time period, were you faithful to me?" Emma smiled confidently and replied, "Yes, Oliver, I was loyal to you during that time." I stared at her and said, "Well, that's your first lie. You can't even answer the first question honestly. I should just walk away right now, but I won't. Are you really telling me that you didn't have sex with Ryan Evans 2 days after we agreed to be exclusive? That's what you're saying. Ryan's not the type to keep secrets. He bragged to me that on a Tuesday night when your parents weren't home, you invited him over and had sex with him in your bed. Oh, and Emma, he also told me that you didn't use condoms. He even said smugly, 'It feels so much better without a condom, especially with a slutty woman.' The last thing he said as he left was, 'Oliver, she's enjoying herself, and I dare say I'll have another one.' Maybe even after you marry this slut." You might say he made that up, but Olivia overheard. She came to me and said, "Oliver, Emma loves you. She won't betray you again. It was just a goodbye. Don't do anything stupid." Oh, by the way, he lied. He used a condom. I saw the wrapper in the trash the next morning. So, Emma, you've already lied to me. I'll let it go this time, but there won't be a next time. Tell the truth or face the consequences. Emma looks devastated. I continued, "After that, I didn't trust you for 6 months. During that time, I watched you carefully and you didn't do anything suspicious. So I proposed to you and gave you the ring. You probably wish I had proposed sooner, but I wasn't ready to trust you, so you had to wait." Now the second question. During our engagement, from the time you got the ring to the day we were married, did you ever betray me? Without hesitation, she replied, "No, absolutely not." I replied, "I know this to be true because I still didn't fully trust you, so I watched you closely during that entire year. I'm pretty sure you were faithful during that time." Seeing that Emma is emotional, William asks for a break to talk to her. She is clearly shocked by the revelations about Ryan Evans. We broke for lunch and David and I took Sophie to a local restaurant. At lunch, Sophie asked how things were going and David said, "I think Oliver is handling it well. Not much has come out yet, but he's laid the groundwork for getting honest answers about the marriage. If she admits everything, he'll probably still want a divorce, but he'll know she's trying to save the marriage. It's a tough decision, but I think Oliver will make the right choice. Of course, if she lies, he'll have to figure out what to do next." Sophie gave me a meaningful look, her intuition clearly sensing my pain. I gave her a weak smile and said, "It's hard. Why do people do such stupid things and cause so much pain to themselves and their loved ones?" She reached for my hand and said, "If only we knew the answer to that, Oliver. Maybe we could give them a slap on the wrist to wake them up before they do something so stupid." It made me laugh out loud, and David laughed along with me. It says a lot about the resilience of people that even in tough times we can still find reasons to laugh. We cry at funerals, but still manage to laugh. I think people grieve in divorces too, but at the same time they can find humor. I smiled at Sophie and said, "Thanks, Sophie. I needed this." She nodded and we went back to William's office about 1 p.m. Back in the conference room, I reminded Emma, "You need to answer honestly. If you lie, this meeting is over and there is no hope for our marriage. Do you understand?" "I understand," Emma replied, clearly devastated. "I'll tell you the truth." I asked, "Have you ever betrayed me from the day we got married until today?" Tears filled her eyes and I could see how hard this was for her. But I couldn't let her off the hook. I need her to be honest to prove that she cares enough about our marriage to come clean about everything. I'm not sure I can stop the divorce, but if she tells the whole truth, I at least know she's trying. "Yes, Oliver," she whispered, tears coming to her eyes. "I did betray you." Then she buried her head in her crossed arms and slumped over the table, sobbing. "I'm so sorry, Oliver. Can you forgive me?" I asked William and David to leave the room as I had more questions for Emma, and I did not want to embarrass her in front of them. Both lawyers objected, but I insisted and Emma nodded to William that she wanted him to leave. I had her confession on tape, and that was enough for the divorce proceedings. I didn't want to record the rest of the conversation, so I turned off the recorder. "Emma, I need you to answer these questions. When, where, with whom, and why?" I asked, doing my best to remain calm. Sobbing, she whispered, "Oh, Oliver, I'm really sorry. It happened this weekend, at the Princess Spa. It was Mario, and I had sex with him." "Why?" I asked. "I'm not really sure, Oliver. It was that moment of passion. Olivia and I had a wonderful day, and after dinner we decided to get a massage before bed. Mario was my masseur. I was lying on my back, and he started massaging me. His hands were soft and strong, and it felt good. He massaged my arms, shoulders, and back, then moved to my legs and inner thighs, stopping just short of going too far. After that, he started on my back and shoulders again. Still nervous, I felt him undo the straps of my bikini and pull it down. I must admit, it felt great and I didn't stop him." She started crying again. "Oliver, if I could go back in time, I would never have let this happen. We wouldn't be in this situation." You have to believe me. As much as it pained me to hear this, I needed her to tell me everything. Not because I was curious, but because I needed to see how honest she could be. Go on, Emma. Tell me the rest, I urged. There's nothing more to say, she said with tears in her eyes. We had sex? She fell silent and I waited, hoping she would say more. But she just sat there with her head down, sobbing from time to time. Finally, she looked up at me and asked, Oliver, is it possible for you to forgive me? Not wanting this to feel like a trial, even though it is, I asked, Emma, is that the whole truth? That's all there is, nothing more? She gave me a look I'd never seen before, a mixture of uncertainty and fear, as if she was calculating how much I really knew. Finally, she said, Oliver, that's the truth. I'm really sorry. My heart broke, but I managed to stay calm. I got up and called David and William back into the room. This meeting is over, I said coldly. Before leaving, I turned to Emma and say, I am filing for divorce on the grounds of adultery. The terms of the prenuptial agreement will be enforced. She was shocked and cried, But why, Oliver? I confessed, I was begging you to forgive me. Please, Oliver. I love you. Please forgive me. You lied to me, Emma. You don't care enough about our marriage to tell me the whole truth. If you'd been completely honest, maybe I would have considered staying. But you didn't even give us a chance. You thought you could get away with admitting it just once, but you lied. It's over. I turned to leave, but she screamed, Wait, Oliver. I'll tell you everything. Please don't leave me. I turned and stared at her angrily, my anger and hurt clearly visible. You've been warned. You had your chance, but you tried to get away with admitting it only once. You lied. It's over. David caught up with me as I was walking to my car. Oliver, are you sure you want to file a licensing case for adultery? He asked. Yes, I'm sure. She had her chance, but I kept misjudging her. All those years I hoped she'd care enough to tell me everything, but she can't even be honest. Go ahead and submit. I drove home feeling numb. I grabbed a beer from the fridge and sat down at my desk. I quickly finished the first one and then slowly slurped the second one, thinking back on everything that had just happened. I have multiple secure backups of the video, but now I think I may not be able to use them since I already have her verbal acknowledgement. Suddenly, I realized something. I had walked out of the office without taking the tape of Emma's admission. I immediately called David. David, did you take the tape of Emma's admission before you left? Oh, shit. I heard him say, No, Oliver. I was so focused on chasing you. I forgot to get the tape. I cursed secretly. I had been so careful in planning everything, but in my anger and pain, I had made a huge mistake and left the tape there. David, why don't you give William a call and see if you can pick it up? Although I guess their answer might be, we thought you took everything with you when you left, so we deleted it. Sorry. I hung up, still sickened by the situation. I have enough evidence to file for divorce for adultery, but I don't want to use those videos unless absolutely necessary. After hanging up with David, I grabbed another beer from the fridge. Damn, how could I have been so careless? I wasn't drunk, but I wasn't feeling much pain either. As I was sitting there watching the evening news and getting ready for bed, I thought I heard a car drive into the yard. I slowly got up from my chair and walked to the back door. I stepped out onto the porch and it was pitch black all around me. Suddenly, something hit me hard in the back of the head and I saw a bright flash of light before everything fell into complete darkness. Drip, drip, drip. That was the first sound I heard. It didn't take long for me to realize that the sound was right next to me. I opened my eyes and tried to turn slightly to the right to see what it was, but as soon as I moved, a sharp pain shot straight from my chest to my head, causing blue and silver star-like flashes. I thought to myself, what the fuck is going on here? Then I heard a rustling sound nearby. Then I felt something surging through my body and I passed out again. The next time I woke up, I still heard that dripping sound and I opened my eyes and looked around, careful not to move my body. I had learned my lesson from the last time I woke up. Hi, Oliver. I'm Rachel, your nurse. Please don't try to move, okay? You're going to be fine and I'll explain everything to you. But for now, please stay still. Do you understand? I couldn't speak because of what was stuck in my throat, but I gave a slight nod to show I understood. Oliver, I need to tell the doctor you're awake. We'll be back soon. I nodded again. It finally dawned on me that I must be in a hospital, though I couldn't remember how I got here. I figured someone would always come along and explain, so I closed my eyes and waited. Mr. Hagen, Oliver, I'm Dr. Julius. You were seriously injured during a robbery at your home. Now that you're awake, I'm sure you'll be fine. We've had to restrict your movement in case you hurt yourself further by moving around too much. I think you felt severe pain when you tried to move yesterday, correct? A faint smile crossed his face when he saw me nod slightly. We should have done more to prevent this. I'm sorry for the pain you went through. He turned to the nurse and said, Nurse Rachel, I think we can lift the restrictions now. But Oliver, please don't try to do anything on your own for a while, okay? I nodded again and pointed to the tube in my throat. We'll also take out the ventilator now. Nurse Rachel will take care of it. When they lifted the restrictions and removed the ventilator, my throat felt like it was on fire, and at first I couldn't speak. They gave me a small sip of water, and eventually I was able to whisper, albeit hoarsely and painfully. Can someone tell me what happened? I said with difficulty. Oliver, it's 7 a.m. You've just regained consciousness and have just been taken off the ventilator. Your throat will be sore for a few hours, and we want you to rest. Nurse Rachel will stay with you, and when you are more stable, we will let the police know you are ready to talk. They will explain to you everything that has happened. Medically speaking, you suffered serious injuries, including a concussion, 3 broken ribs, and multiple contusions. You're lucky, Oliver. If you hadn't been found in time, you could have died. Simply put, you were severely beaten. You were in a coma for 5 days. You woke up briefly yesterday, but passed out again until now. We'll be watching you closely for the next few days, but you should be able to go home after that. As promised, I spent the rest of the day resting with Nurse Rachel by my side. Whenever I moved the slightest bit faster, there was intense pain coming from my body, so I tried to stay as still as possible. By mid-afternoon, with help, I was able to sit up and even use the restroom with assistance. As I spent more time with Rachel, we talked. I learned that she was 3 grades below me in school. Her maiden name was Rachel Fisher, and she was married to Henry Johnson. They had a 3-year-old daughter named Emily, but Rachel divorced Henry when she found out about his infidelity. I told her about Emma, and she sympathized. The next morning, 2 detectives, Harold Robbins and Josh Carter, came to see me. Before they started asking questions, I asked them to explain what had happened to me. Detective Robbins begins, "This appears to be a robbery that escalated into an assault. We found a 2x4 board with your hair and blood on your porch. There are no fingerprints on it, probably because the killer was wearing gloves. There's no sign of forced entry, but that could be because you stepped out onto the porch and left the door open. Inside the house, we found several paintings missing from the walls. The safe in your desk drawer was empty, and the file cabinets had been rummaged through. The bedrooms were also searched, and the drawers and jewelry box in the master bedroom were empty. We're not entirely sure what's missing." Detective Carter went on to say, "When you are able to go home, we need you to be checked to see what is missing. The doctor said it could be another 3 to 4 days before you can be discharged. We'll update the report with you after that." Robbins took over again. "We need to ask you a few questions, Oliver. Do you remember the attack?" I sighed. "Honestly, don't remember much. I had a couple beers and was watching the evening news when I heard a car drive in the yard. I got up to check it out and went out onto the porch. I saw a blurry figure, and then everything went black. I don't remember anything until I woke up here yesterday. I wish I could have been more helpful." Robbins nodded and said, "That's okay, Oliver. We still need to ask a few questions to sort this out. Where was your wife at the time?" "My wife and I are separated. We're in the middle of a divorce, so I don't know where she is. Can I call you Oliver?" Robbins asked. "Sure," I replied. "Was the divorce peaceful, or were you at odds with each other?" I thought for a moment. "You could say it's not going too well. She's arguing my grounds for filing for divorce." "What's the reason for that?" Robbins asked. "Adultery. We have a prenuptial agreement, and if we divorce on that ground, she'll get a much smaller division of her property. That's what she's fighting for." Robbins and Carter exchanged glances, then asked, "Do you think that might give her a motive to hurt you?" "I don't believe she would do such a thing." I replied firmly, "I just don't." Robbins didn't argue, just made a note. We'll look into it, just to cover all possibilities. Is there anyone else who might want to hurt you? Any business disputes, neighborhood conflicts, or family problems? I shook my head. No, I can't think of any. Okay, Oliver. When you're feeling better, we'll need to make a detailed inventory of what's missing. I have a few more specific questions. Do you have any cash stored at home, especially in that safe? If so, roughly how much? Also, are there any other valuables, like jewelry or art?
Yes.
I said, the safe deposit box does have some cash in it, probably around $80,000. I usually keep about $10,000, but I've spent some of it recently, so it's a little less. As for jewelry, there are a couple of pieces worth more than $1,000, but I can't think of anything else of particular value. I hesitated, then added, I didn't mention it before, but I have a hidden safe behind a bookshelf. I'm pretty sure it hasn't been discovered, and I'd like to keep it a secret if possible. Robbins raised an eyebrow, but didn't press the issue. Okay, let us know if you remember anything else. When you're ready to go home, give us a call and we'll take inventory of everything for you. Over the next few days, things slowly got better for me. I had plenty of time to rest and talk to Rachel when I was awake. I had a few visitors: Henry, Olivia, David, and Sophie. Emma and her family, apart from Olivia, didn't come, which makes sense considering the circumstances, but I would have appreciated a visit. William, Emma's solicitor and an old friend of mine, came to see me and I was glad to see him. Everyone who visited showed concern and wished me a speedy recovery. Olivia and Sophie left with tears in their eyes, and each gave me a kiss goodbye. Those 4 days were tough. I slept a lot, but often had nightmares and woke up panicked, sometimes even screaming, but couldn't remember what the dreams were about. Rachel was always there, comforting me with soft words and gentle touches. I later realized that she even stayed at the hospital after hours. She said my situation reminded her of her own marriage, and she felt the need to support me. While I appreciate her kindness, my life is too chaotic to consider a deeper relationship. But I said I would like to stay in touch. When it came time to be discharged, Dr. Julius informed me that I was finally relieved to be going home, and Rachel helped me pack my things and pushed me in my wheelchair to the lobby where Henry and Olivia were waiting. She gave me a big hug, and I could feel that she really cared, but I wasn't ready to consider a relationship beyond friendship just yet. When I got home, I saw the mess that had been left behind. Henry and Olivia offered to help, but I wanted to go through everything myself first. I promised to call them when I was ready, and they reluctantly agreed. The first thing I did was check the safe behind the bookshelf. Everything was still there: cash, certificates, stocks, bonds, and the DVD of Emma cheating on me. My laptop and a couple of Terry Redland prints were missing, but basically everything else was there. Some bank and credit card statements had been moved around, so I called my bank to warn them that my account might have been compromised. Weeks went by, but the robbery investigation was slow. Detectives Robbins and Carter kept me informed, but there were no leads. With no high-value items missing, the case was becoming an open one. They asked about Emma, but I insisted that she wouldn't hurt me because she would have gotten many items in the divorce. They seemed to agree and didn't pursue it further. I opened a new bank account for security purposes, although no suspicious activity was reported. I also bought a new laptop and reorganized my office. Then one day, while I was organizing my bills, I saw a statement from Red, the full name of which is Remote Electronic Data Storage Solutions. I have a video surveillance system covering my property that is backed up to Red every night. I hadn't deleted anything from the day of the robbery, so I logged into Red's system, found the footage from that day, and downloaded it to my laptop. If the quality of the footage is good enough, I plan to give it to the detectives to possibly reopen the investigation and find some answers. When I watched the footage back, I realized there was nothing useful to give the detectives. I knew this case would never be solved. After paying the bills, I began to focus on how to move forward. I contacted an old college friend who worked for Cargill, one of the largest grain traders in the United States. Through him, I set up a meeting with their acquisition team. Within 2 weeks, I had a plan in place with Cargill. After taking care of some business in Phoenix, I took a brief trip to Las Vegas, gambled for a couple days, and then flew home ready to implement my plan. I asked David to set up a meeting with Gentry Grain where I would talk to Emma, her brothers Nathan and Lucas, and her sister Olivia. David mentioned that their grain reserves would not be able to meet the state's requirements without my share, considering our impending divorce. They quickly agreed to meet, probably because they hadn't considered the implications of losing my stored grain. At the meeting, I greeted everyone and got right to the point. I told them to listen until I was finished and made it clear that resolving the divorce was my top priority. I handed Emma the finalized divorce papers and asked her to sign them. Emma responded, "Oliver, I don't want a divorce. Whatever you think I've done is not worth ending what we have. Can't we discuss this in front of my family?" I told her firmly, "Emma, this needs to end today. The sooner you sign, the sooner we can go our separate ways." She became angry and said, "If you are going to divorce me, I will oppose the charge of adultery. It is the least you can do for me." I anticipated this. I put a DVD on the table with the divorce papers and said, "If you fight me on this, I will use this as evidence in court. This is a video of all 8 times you cheated on me at the spa." Olivia cried out in shock and anger. "You didn't, Emma. How could you?" I confirmed, "Yes, 8 videos. With Mario and Steve." "So, yes, 8 videos. Sign the divorce papers now, or these will be in court. I'm tired of playing games." Nathan and Lucas are stunned while Olivia silently weeps. Emma signs the divorce papers, and I take my copy and put it in my briefcase. Emma looks shocked with unshed tears in her eyes, probably realizing that I have solid proof of her infidelity. But I'm not done. Now let's talk about grain. After this divorce, you will lose the value of my stored grain, which will put you in violation of your grain license and loan covenants. The bad news is that you are in trouble. The good news is that I spoke with your father, and he sold me 52% of his shares. Because there was no right of first refusal clause in your agreement, William didn't do a good job on that. I didn't even have to show him evidence of your cheating. He believed me and knew the company would be in trouble without my cereal. So now I'm the majority shareholder, and each of you owns only 12%. I have negotiated with Cargill to sell my shares. You can sell your shares for the same price, and I suggest you do so. Cargill will now evaluate the employee situation, but I have secured a 1-year job guarantee for each of you. Make good use of this opportunity." Shock turned to anger as Nathan, the eldest son, finally spoke up. "What did you do, Oliver? You destroyed the family business because my sister cheated on me. How did you trick my father into selling his shares?" I replied, "Your father sold the stock to keep you, Lucas, and Emma out of jail. You ask me what kind of man I am. Ask yourselves what kind of people you are." I threw the second DVD on the table. "It shows you and Lucas attacking me and stealing from my house that night. You guys should be glad I chose this path instead of turning this over to the police." Emma finally spoke. "Oliver, how could you do this to me?" "Emma, you've wasted my life. Your father and brothers have always treated me like an outsider, and you've always cheated on me. You cheated on me with Ryan Evans, you disrespected our marriage, and worst of all, you almost killed me in that attack. Nathan and Lucas broke my ribs, but your kick caused a broken rib to puncture my lung. If the paramedics hadn't gotten there in time, I would have died. What a good friend, huh?" Emma fainted when she heard those words, and Olivia and Lucas rushed forward to catch her. When she regained consciousness, I said my last words. "Your father sold me stock to keep you all out of jail. He wasn't proud of his children, except for Olivia. I've wasted too much time on you guys, Emma. I won't waste any more. Have a good life." After that, I left. The deal was all done, and I was finally free. A few months later, Emma and I were officially divorced. The siblings were arrested for assault, and the video was sent to the police. Emma's father was furious and came to confront me, but he had a heart attack before I could respond. Fate is so unpredictable sometimes. As time went on, I began to re-examine it all. I realized that even though Emma's betrayal caused me great pain, it also opened my eyes to something I had been ignoring. Our marriage wasn't as perfect as I thought it was, and we were both to blame. It took me a long time to heal myself, not only physically but mentally. I started seeing a therapist and learned to better handle my emotions and expectations. I also reevaluated my life goals and decided to put more energy into growing the farm. To my surprise, I stayed in touch with Rachel, the nurse who took care of me. At first it was just as a friend, but over time our relationship grew deeper. She understood the pain I was going through and gave me the space and support I needed. About a year later, I felt like I was finally ready to start over. I invited Rachel to dinner, and it was our first official date. We took our time, cherishing each other's company and enjoying the process of rebuilding trust. The farm has flourished under my careful management. I introduced new growing techniques and expanded the operation. I also began working with local charities to feed families in need. This gave me a new sense of purpose and made me feel like I wasn't just making money, but contributing to my community. As for the Gentry family, I've heard they've been through tough times. Nathan and Lucas served short sentences for assault. Emma had to restart her career. Olivia is the only one who's managed to make a decent living, and she and Henry continue to run their farm. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't checked that site that night. But I soon realized that sooner or later the truth would surface. Maybe it happened for a reason, so that I could get out of an unhealthy relationship and get to know myself again. Now, as Rachel and I sit on the porch and watch the sun set, I feel a sense of peace. Life had given me a second chance, and I was determined to make the most of it. I learned to forgive, not for Emma or her family, but for myself. I learned that resentment only continues to hurt me, and that letting go brings freedom. This experience has taught me so much about trust, honesty, forgiveness, and the impermanence of life. It has made me a stronger, more compassionate person. Instead of linking my worth to the behavior of others, I have learned to value myself and those who truly care about me. As I look back on this journey, I realize that life is like the cycle of seasons on a farm. There is a time to sow, a time to reap, and a time when the land needs to be allowed to rest. I've had a rough winter in my life, but now spring is here, bringing new hope and possibilities. I don't know what the future holds, but I know I'm ready for it. Whether it's good or bad, I'm confident I can handle it. Because now I know myself better, stronger, and wiser than ever before. As night fell, Rachel held my hand gently. We smiled at each other without words. I knew that no matter what the future held, I would never be alone again. This is my story. That's the end of today's story. For more captivating tales, hit subscribe and never miss an episode.